It's Abe Kanan Show. It's 98 Rock, and this is like a great moment for me. Slash is with me live. I'm so excited. Slash, you're my all-time favorite guitar player. You're my all-time favorite. Guns N' Roses are my all-time favorite band. This is the greatest. I'm telling you, Slash, this is a great moment for me. You have a new album called Orgy of the Damned, and it's a masterpiece. I love blues, and this is such a perfect entry point for anyone that wants to get into the blues.
Oh yeah,
I think so, because you have like you have classics. You have like Crossroads, Hoochie Coochie Man, Born Under a Bad Sign, songs to like bring people in. But then you have other blues songs that maybe aren't as popular. That I just feel like this is the perfect album if you want to get into the blues. This is it. I think you created something amazing.
Well, I that's really flattering and humbling. Thank you. We had a good time making it. We picked some songs. I mean, for me personally, they were all songs that had a big influence on me over the course of my life, up, all the way up till now. And we just got in there and jammed them out, and then having all the different singers come in and sing them was just sort of like the icing on the cake. It was really a cool way of taking these interpretations and bringing them to you, So thank you.
I want to get back to the album in a second, but you're doing this Serpent Festival. Okay. So it's you, Warren Haynes from Government Mule, Allman Brothers, all that stuff, Samantha Fish and Eric Gales. So could you explain, are you guys all playing together? Like, how's this going to work?
No, it's a festival. So Samantha Fish and Eric and Warren and us are all playing one after the other over the course of the day. So it's going to be a great gig. It's the whole tour is, they're on the tour and there's some other people on the tour and there's different lineups for different shows. But this is a particularly powerhouse lineup, and it's just going to be a blast, summer festival outdoors and a bunch of great music, and it's just going to be a good time.
So you're doing it here, Thunder Valley, July 12th. The tour starts July 5th. So who's in the band with you? Like, who's playing with you?
The band who's on the record is who I'm playing with, and these guys.
Who's singing?
Well, Ted Andriotis, who's the keyboard player, is singing, and also Tash Neal, the guy who sang "Living for the City" on the record.
Yeah,
and those guys are the band, and they were always supposed to sing, but then I had this idea, just to make it not a straight up blues record. When I was going to put it out, I decided, what if I just put all these different singers on it and make it very eclectic, so it was a little bit more not so straightforward. And so that's what we did. But for the tour, these guys are going to sing, so and they're awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. So Brian Johnson does Killing Floor, and what I love about it is it's not the normal Brian Johnson voice. He's doing just like a different, like he's doing a blues. I feel like a lot of people, Iggy Pop, Awful Dream. It's not a normal Iggy Pop song.
No, but for both those guys, like Howlin' Wolf is a huge influence on Brian Johnson. So when he went in the studio, he wanted to do a service to Howlin' Wolf and do it in that range and sort of have it be as close to the original as possible. And then with Iggy, all things considered, that was the song that he picked, because I had no designs on having Iggy on the record.
Yeah.
Just in the onset, because it didn't occur to me that Iggy had blues chops, right?
Yeah.
And so I talked to him, and he said that he's always wanted to do a blues thing. And I said, well, what song would you want to do if you were going to do a blues cover? And he said, Awful Dream by Lightning Hopkins, like that, without even having to think about it. I was like, all right, cool. So I checked out the original version, and then he and I got together at my studio in LA and just sat on a couple stools and recorded the version that's on the record. And I think we did it in 2 takes, and awesome. Very loose. We sort of made it up as we went along, but and Iggy was it was quite a moment having Iggy do that. It was really cool.
So I'm from Chicago, and I grew up, I go to Buddy Guy's all the time. What do you want?
The Chicago, it's a bar in Chicago. Can you see it?
No. What? I can't see it. What bar is it? I can't see it.
It's called Lock and Loaded.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
I have a picture of Lemmy on it. But I have, my girlfriend's from Chicago. I have a place there.
Oh, you do? Where at?
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna tell you where it is.
Well, I mean, but you're actually in the city.
Park.
You're not in the suburbs because
Lincoln Park.
So I grew up listening to the blues all the time. My entry point, I remember, for the blues was that movie Adventures in Babysitting. Do you remember? No one leaves this place without singing the blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the line for the movie, but I do remember the movie.
Yeah, they go into the blues club and he's like, no one leaves this place without singing the blues. So that's how I got, like, do you remember your entry point into the blues as a kid?
Very clearly, my grandmother, you know, I was born in England, right? So I lived in England until I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I was really weaned on British rock and roll because my dad was a big British rock and roll fan. He's you know, a Brit. And when I moved to the States, I was totally into like the Stones and the Who and stuff. And I was just a little kid, but I was, you know, waving my UK flag. And my grandmother said, well, you know, because my grandmother is American, right? And she goes, you know, where they learned how to do that. They got it from this guy. And she played me B.B. King.
Wow.
The sound of it really stuck with me. It really spoke to me. So I learned a lot about blues back then, but I had no aspirations at that time to be a musician or play guitar or anything like that. So when I was 15 and I actually did pick up the guitar, the guys that I was listening to at that time were all sort of British blues guitar players. And I remember what my grandmother said. So I went back and I listened to B.B. King and Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters and all those guys. And that's where I learned where the origins of that whole thing came from. I just went full circle.
So it must have been surreal when, I think it was like, I don't know, 2011, like Royal Albert Hall, you're playing with B.B. King. He puts your head on.
I know. That was funny.
I mean, that was amazing.
I know, it was great. I'd known BB for a while prior to that particular gig, but it was an honor to, you know, he called me up and asked me if I wanted to come up there and jam, and then the hat thing was unscripted. I had no idea that was going to happen.
Yeah, like, is that? I mean, I know you've done everything. Like, you've met everyone. Like, that has to be something where you're like, when I was a kid, my grandma gave me this record. Like, that has to be something to you, right? Like, that had to have been amazing.
Well, I mean, you know, when you're 7 years old, you don't really know, you know.
No, but I mean, B.B. King though, like he's wearing your hat.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, when I first met B.B. King was in the '90s, late '90s, I guess it was, and it was a huge moment meeting him, just like any of my other guitar heroes when I met him. I try to put up a cool front though, but meeting BB and getting to be, you know, I wouldn't say we were best buddies, but you know, having a relationship with him over the years was always a big deal to me. And he was a really good guy, and he was also, aside from being a great guitar player, you know, he was such a road dog, and I'm very much a road guy. So you know, it was sort of a positive influence, I guess, for somebody like me. Anyway, so knowing BB is, and he's also my favorite of all the great blues guitar players, and I have a lot of favorites, but he's really the one that I relate to musically the most. And so, it was always a big deal running into him and hanging out with him.
And that sound he had with just like the he kind of invented that, right?
Huh?
Didn't he kind of invent that sound?
His vibrato is definitely his, you know, that single finger shaky kind of thing that he's got going on, that trill. Yeah, that's definitely his what's the word for a signature thing.
So the album is called Orgy of the Damned. The Chris Robinson song, The Pusher. I love it. I mean, I love the Black Crowes, but man, the Chris Stapleton song. Oh, don't you think Chris Stapleton, like Leonard Skinner, right? Today, if they came out, they'd be pushed towards country. They'd be considered a country band. Chris Stapleton is a rock star.
Well, I mean, he's a rock star across a lot of genres. you know? I mean, but he's primarily a country guy. I mean, I think that's really where he, you know, sells his records and stuff. But he's an incredible artist. Like, I can't say enough great things about Chris. He's really one of those talents from on high. I mean, his just natural ability that flows out of him is just amazing. And I was really, you know, like, I was excited about the idea of having him sing that song, but he and I had never met, and I had no idea if even, I know he knows who I am because
you're Slash.
Well, no. Chris opened up for Guns N' Roses for a few shows a few years ago. And that's where I first saw him. But I didn't know if he was going to actually entertain the idea of singing the song for me. So I got his number from a producer who's a mutual friend, and called him up, cold called him and said, "Hey, it's Slash. Would you be into doing this thing?" And he was really gracious about it and loves the song, and took time out of his schedule to do it. So we've been friends ever since.
When was the last time you called someone, you're like, "Hey, it's Slash," and they actually said, "No, I'm good. I'm not interested."
I mean, I don't think I've actually had that response, but
Of course not. No, but
But-
I'm saying like Chris Stapleton should actually be doing rock music. I saw him when Prince died. He did Nothing Compares to You. Have you seen that video?
I have not seen that.
Oh my God. It's
I've seen-
amazing.
I've seen a couple things that he's done that were so, like, he did an incredible version of the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that.
And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is so good, Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He does a lot of different styles. So I don't think he does Cookie Monster death metal yet, though. I don't think
You have I was thinking too, like, can you imagine if Lemmy was still alive and you put him on this blues record?
Well, that was the one call that I couldn't, like, I was fortunate to get everybody on the record that I wanted to have on there, but the one guy I would have really have loved to have had on there was Lemmy, and it was just so, it sort of reopened that wound because
Yeah.
Lemmy was such a fixture in my life anyway, that he was always around, and it's just weird him not being around. And so when the idea of doing this record came, he was one of the first people I thought of, and fuck, right, he's not here.
Yeah.
That would have been great, but yeah, it is what it is.
Did you ever like jam with him on any blues? Like, I know you guys hung out at the Rainbow all the time. They have that Lemmy statue there. Like, did you guys ever play together and do blues stuff?
We never jammed on any blues stuff. I mean, he played on one of my other solo records back in 2010, but it was a hard rock song, and I played on his records, but we never jammed any blues. But he's definitely an old school guy. I mean, he goes back. Sometimes people forget how long ago Lemmy first came on the scene.
Yeah.
He really came on in the late 60s. So he's a big old school rock and roll and blues fan through and through.
So it's the Serpent Festival. You'll be at Thunder Valley on July 12th, and you're giving a lot of money to charity on this tour.
Yeah, the Serpent Festival, the serpent's really not about snakes. It's an acronym for solidarity, engage,
It's on your website.
Yeah, no, I was one of the words I had wrong the other day. Respect, peace, equality, and tolerance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so that's basically the idea of the whole festival, was to really bringing people together from all walks of life and make it all all inclusive, and try to bridge the gap in this divide that's been growing. I just wanted to do something positive during this really sort of polarizing time that we're experiencing right now, and so we wanted to reach out to some charities that are supporting people who are having a hard time and, dealing with a lot of inequality and whatnot. So it was really focused on that. So that's what Serpent stands for.
I have one question that I've always wanted to know that no one could explain to me. In the November Rain video, when it started raining, why did the guy jump through the wedding cake?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. I showed up to do my guitar solo, and the rest of it I was not really very, very dialed in for. Because it was just such a massive production, and I was never a huge proponent of videos in the first place. I never really liked concept videos and all that kind of stuff. So I just wrote my own little scene for my guitar solo, and I showed up at the wedding.
It's kind of like how the video was. You walk in and then you walk out.
Yeah.
One last thing, just one last Guns N' Roses thing. So, it's been 8 years since you've been back with Guns N' Roses. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so I went to the reunion. I saw you every tour since you guys have been back together. And 2016, I'm at Soldier Field. My brother Sam, whose birthday is actually today, he took this picture. at the show, and I just thought it's just the perfect picture of you, Duff, and Axel back together. And it was like, it just felt, when I saw you and Axel next to each other after all those years,
I know.
it felt so good. And it's like, there has to be, like, when you, for 20, however long you weren't in Guns N' Roses, you would do an interview. Was it 20 years?
Yeah.
You would do an interview and everyone, you'd be talking about whatever. And then they'd be like, well, what about Guns N' Roses? Blah, blah. And there has to be relief now that you're doing Guns N' Roses, and now you could do awesome things like Orgy of the Damned, the Serpent Tour. You could do it, like, you do everything now, but it must feel so good for you.
Yeah, no, it was great to I mean, God, there was it's a long story, but it was great when Axel and I started talking again. And then, because I missed him, but we had it developed so much animosity that it just got worse and worse as time went on.
Yeah.
So when we finally spoke and then started talking about playing, God, it was a huge kind of like weight lifted off of our shoulders, and it was just, and it was exciting, to get back together. And there was that chemistry that happens that you sort of forget about,
Yeah.
how intense that is when you get on stage together, or just even working together. So yeah, it's really cool. And I'm really happy that we managed to get past all that.
Yeah. And it's Orgy of the Damned. I'm telling you, this is a masterpiece. If you're not into the blues, listen to this album. It's amazing. There's so many great songs. It's going to get people to love the blues. They're going to look up the original artist. I think you're doing a great thing here. The Serpent Festival, Thunder Valley, July 12th. The tour starts July 5th. This is so great talking to you. And thank you so much.
No, it was good talking to you, Abe. And I'll maybe see you at the gig.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little bit higher energy than your average blues show.
Yeah.
It goes with the territory,
Oh,
we just started rehearsing, and I realized that we still deliver everything at a certain kind of energy level, but it's going to be cool.
Is the cover of your album inspired by Archibald Motley's Nightlife painting?
It was inspired by Ernie, what's his name? God, the guy who did the painting that was on the show Good Times.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Ernie, why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, Barnes, Ernie Barnes.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
it's a famous painting, and it was inspired by that.
I love the cover art, but I know you got to go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Listen, have a good one. Cheers.
You too. Thank you so much.